everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Constructive Criticism. I'm your host, Spencer, and I am joined by my co-hosts. That's right, two of them this week, Mason Clark.
How you doing, amigos?
And Trey McLarnon.
I'm back from exile.
You know what's interesting? There were years and years of this podcast where it was, how's it going? It's so different that it shakes me to my core every week now.
That's that Southern hospitality.
Are you saying that you are nicer than Michael Hinderrocker?
I'm not saying that. Rest in peace, Michael Hinderrocker. #Watchy staff. I'm saying that it's that Southern hospitality. We go that little extra than, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean?
You know who else goes a little bit extra and who is a little bit extra is our patrons over on Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/ccmtg and you too can be a patron. This week, our newest patron is Ellison B. I definitely typed that wrong the first time that I typed his name up. So,
what's up, Barry Hill?
You've been
shout out to Ellison. What's up, Barry Hill? I like how I just don't say their last names on the podcast, and then twice now you've just done it.
I know that Ellison wants that shout out, so that was me helping him out. So that was for you, baby.
Does he not like his last name? Is that why you did it?
No, Ellie Berry loves it. So
I feel like we're picking on somebody on the internet.
We're not picking on anyone. My friend Ellison Berry Hill always messages thanks for the shout out. So I gave him the Berry Hill, which was the silent shout out, which people could probably figure out. And now we're here, and now Ellie Berry's getting out in front of everybody, and I don't understand why we're attacking him. He's my friend, and I love him, and I just wanted to give him a shout out. That's the power we have to make dreams come true.
Last week was an episode where we missed Trey McLarnon dearly. So with that being said, Trey, we saved, just kidding, we didn't get it in time, but we have one of our questions, but it's not really a question from our mailbag show. So Trey, why don't you go ahead and read this for us?
This is from Matthew. It says, as Spencer just said, it starts off with, I don't have a question for the show today, but I wanted to email and express my profound gratitude. I've been a long-time listener of the show, and in that time, it has helped me grow substantially as a player, but even more as a person. A few years ago, I was feeling pretty burned out as a player and had hit a series of mental and emotional hurdles trying to break through to the next level of competitive success. Listening to the show had helped me reframe why I play and how I approach a competitive mindset. Once I joined the Patreon, access to the community on Discord and Facebook helped me grow further, allowing me to tap into more of the collaborative nature of this game, pun appreciated, than I had ever had before, and I grew even further as a player. All of these things came together and culminated in the greatest success of my Magic career last week, where I won my first invite to the Pro Tour, winning a standard MCQ in Kansas City. My gratitude is immeasurable, but it doesn't end there. As Spencer took it a step further in setting up a GoFundMe to help send me to Barcelona for the event, I am incredibly humbled and just wanted to voice my gratitude for all the listeners to hear. And no, that is no joke when I say that this podcast is amazing and truly dedicated to...
There's a typo. I think it's supposed to be helping. I think it's
helping the community live out their best lives. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Matthew.
Yeah, so kind of mentioned it a little bit on the podcast, but I wanted to save it until I got the message from Matthew. He told me that it was coming. To just say, there'll be a link in the show notes. Anything that you can do to help another podcast listener out is awesome. There are a lot of shade thrown at the GoFundMes, and that's just kind of not how I roll. As it's clear, I actually made this GoFundMe for Matthew. He didn't make it himself. As somebody who, when I went to the Pro Tour, there are actually two stories really quick. The first time that I would have qualified for a Pro Tour level event would have been, I can't remember if it was Worlds or not. Basically, I would have qualified off of ELO. I was about 20 points short, and, I was going to plan a couple events to get there, realized where it was, and was, I think it might have been, 20 or 21 at the time, and realized that I didn't have the money to go, so instead, I played in a couple events with my friend and conceded to him so that he could go, just getting his ELO up. And then, that's one problem with the ELO system, but it's also a problem with, I wouldn't have had money. I didn't have money to go to my first professional level event. And then the second one, obviously, was a MCQ or a PTQ that RPTQ. Holy crap! There's been a lot of names for these, but an RPTQ that I won that I did get the flight for, and I don't know that I would have had the $600 for that flight either. My wife was pregnant at the time. We were saving money, trying to, make sure that we were in a good position, and I probably wouldn't have had money to go to that one either. And I don't know. I've just been there, and I'm happy for Matthew. He's been a really long time supporter, and if you can help him out, that's awesome. If not, no big deal. Like we're just trying to help in any way that we can, and I thought this was cool.
Yeah, and that message really is especially really thank you, Matthew, for those words. And we do this every week. When you do a podcast, it's kind of strange because you're just talking to a wall most of the time, and unless we get feedback like that,
they can see you.
Trey, that's not how you subtweet. I know you're old, but that's like an aggressive one.
Yeah. But that people taking the time to give feedback like that is something that really speaks a lot to us, and was something that we take seriously when we're doing the show.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
I don't know. I've met Matthew. I think he's a great dude. And it's stuff like this, and we've read a couple messages the last couple weeks, and I don't know. It's been nice to get this kind of feedback. It really solidifies, the reason that we do the show, and I appreciate it.
Yep, means a lot.
Well, let's go on to hashtag always improving. Hashtag always improving. It's kind of the point here. The amount of feedback that I've gotten over hashtag always improving as a segment and as a philosophy is really high the last year, especially for something that I blatantly stole from a job that I had. And, the mindset of, being always improving and, doing something better today than you did yesterday, I think really resonates with a lot of people for a lot of reasons. And I really tried to take that to heart this week, thinking about kind of, as we look at the future of competitive Magic, what does it mean for me as somebody who does a competitive Magic the Gathering podcast? Is something that I kind of have been introspecting on quite a bit this week. And I think that my goals in Magic, since I had my kid, have been in flux. I've said that I was going to just try and qualify for local stuff, go to all the RPTQs that I wanted to go to. Now the RPTQs are gone, so it's like, how many MCQs am I willing to travel for each, quarter, things like that. And it's kind of been a lot just to wrestle with and understand, especially when you think about ladder and, where am I at? Where do I want to be with that? And I think that while I haven't come to any final conclusions on where I want to be in the Magic community, in the competitive landscape, thinking about it has been really helpful. I see a lot of people getting really upset about it and feeling like they have to do every part of everything. And I kind of hinted at that last week. And I think my last week's show is what brought me to have this self-reflection. And I hope that we all can look at, what Magic does for us and what we want to bring to the game and, improve the game around us, but also improve while we're doing it. And so for me, I'm going to continue doing that. I know where I stand on ladder. I think I haven't changed my mind on wanting to get top 1,000 every month. I don't think that's going to be a goal of mine. I don't even know that getting Mythic is going to be a goal of mine every month. And but I think that I know that I want to qualify for everything local. This weekend I won the qualifier that I was posting about and had been talking about. And I'm just going to continue to try and qualify for all the stuff close to me and do my best to be prepared for the show each week. I think that's where my head has landed, and I'm pretty happy about it, Mason.
Yeah, that's great to hear. That's something kind of we hinted at last week, and maybe we touched on. I can't remember. We had a conversation after the show too, so some of that is blurred together for me. But there's a lot going on with competitive Magic, and especially with online stuff and real life and the SCG tour. There's a whole lot you can't be doing, and it can be hard to juggle it all. And you don't have to juggle it all, and there's no real wrong answer. Like, it's not like, oh, if you're not getting Mythic and you're not going to these events, and you're not traveling to these GPs, you're just doing it wrong. You can relate and interact with the game the way that is best for you and fits your lifestyle best, and there's no wrong way to do it.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that it just took a little bit of self-reflection for me to say, do you know where you're at? Do you know what you want to do? And then realizing that maybe I didn't know where I was at and what I wanted to do was important, and kind of, just checking in with yourself. Your mental health can be pretty hard if you are spending a lot of time on something you don't know why.
Yeah, I mean that was something that Trey and I, Trey like brought up pretty early when we were doing even odds. It's like, hey, do we still want to be doing this? Like what exactly? And we had that conversation a couple times. And I think it's important to take stock of stuff, take stock of Magic and your goals and etc. So, and obviously, like most things in Always Improving, that implies to outside your life too. Like, do you really want to not be watching The Bachelorette this season? Like, take a moment, stop, think about it. I decided this season I'm taking a break. The next season, maybe I'm back on in Paradise. Who knows? I like that.
So, I'm definitely the on in Paradise, but this is also the most Mason season of The Bachelorette ever.
I know, and I haven't watched any of it. I know, I get messages.
So, one thing like on what you were saying is that like I think checking in and trying to reevaluate your goals are and what your motivations are is always good, because doing something just because you've always done it is the literal worst reason to do anything. Like you should have an active reason of why it is that you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And you have to like self-reflect, like you said, in order to reach that conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
for sure.
Absolutely.
Trey, what's your Always Improving moment?
Wow, just stealing it from me.
Oh, I felt like there was going to be a silence there, and so I hopped on it. Eye of the tiger, baby.
No, I meant passing it to Trey. I wanted to pass the ball. It was my ball.
You can pass the ball to Trey if you want.
Trey, here's the ball.
Well, we always talk about always improving, and that it's improving at Magic or at life. And we've talked a lot about. I know that Mason and I have talked a lot about how things that you do with Magic can also mirror and reflect things that you do with your life. And so what I wanted to talk about was actually me being gone last week. The reason that I was gone is that I'm a filmmaker. That's what my job is when I'm not doing podcasting. So I was at a film festival in Oklahoma City, and film festivals are an exhausting time because you are networking nonstop. It's events all the time. I was up till 5 o'clock in the morning, 5 nights in a row, going to things and trying to meet people and make connections. And when I flew back on Monday night, I landed and all I wanted to do was go home and crash. I was done. It's you're just being on all the time in order to try to make connections in this film that I'm working on. And I texted my wife to say that I had landed, and she's like, "Hey, I'm at a party. There's some people here that I think you should probably be talking to in relation to the movie." And I just shifted my mindset into okay, let's go. And I went over to that, and I made a connection with a guy that I've been trying to connect to in relation to this film for 2 years. And that type of grind that we have to deal with a lot of the times with Magic, we talk about a lot of that and how to manage that, how to put yourself in a position to do your best and perform your best, even though you've been going for a long period of time. That same type of mentality, that same type of thinking was something that I was able to apply in this business situation. And I was able to talk passionately about what it is that I'm doing with someone that I've been trying to connect with for a long time, and finally break through to the other side because I took that opportunity and put myself in that position instead of just going home because I was tired.
That's awesome.
Yep. That's great, buddy. Way to make those money moves, as Cardi B would say.
Man.
Oh my gosh, dude. Can I just say, the number of people that say making moves, it's too high. It's too high.
Spencer, is that because they're not making money moves? Or because they're just making moves?
Must be. Did you make any money moves in hashtag Always Improving this week, Mason?
Hopefully for Teresa I did. So my hashtag Always Improving moment this week is I played a lot of Standard, and just kind of working on that and working with Teresa to help her figure out her deck for MC3, which is happening this weekend at the time of the recording. And just playing a lot of Standard, trying out a lot of things, and just talking through something which is something that you just kind of have to do in Magic, and it's a skill you have to work on, and you have to also understand where they're coming from, want to see how they're looking at stuff, and also think about how the other competitors are going to be thinking about stuff and how they're going to pick, what deck they're going to pick, and are they going to be prepared for this? Do we want to be here? Do we want to be over there? That kind of stuff. So just general tournament preparation was my Always Improving moment this week, and also doing it with a deck that I didn't particularly love when we first started, but kind of trusting my teammate. It's her event. She wanted to do the deck she wanted to play. And at the end of it, I really liked where we were at, and I really liked the positioning. But at first, I was a little more on edge about it. So, yeah.
Cool. Are you super stoked to be watching this weekend?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I believe Yeah, it starts this Friday. It doesn't start Thursday. I don't know why I thought it'd start Thursday for a second. But
Is
yeah.
there a lack of clarity as to when the event is?
No, it's definitely Friday. I just for some reason going to say Thursday. I was thinking about deck lists being published too. I think the infographic got published today, like which like if the challengers with the MPL are on the deck. It was interesting because a lot of challengers were on the same deck that Teresa was on, and the deck will be public for the event, so it's not like the end of the world or anything. But it was interesting to see the MPL was kind of low on it, and then what we kind of thought was going to be the opposite, because we thought MPL players would play this deck more, and a lot of challengers would play Esper, and it was kind of reversed there. So, kind of right, like we got to the right end goal, but for the wrong reasons, which is always kind of and you have to like kind of reevaluate. But you know, yep.
All right. Well, you know what else will be always improving this week is our segment, because we'll have Trey's sweet, sweet voice talking about our sponsor, Oasis Games. Trey, take it away.
Hello, fellow Magic competitor. The rigors of daily life can be a challenge, but there are moments of pure joy illuminated in the modern world like a breaking horizon. And if you're like me, and I think you are sitting contemplating the struggle of humanity as seen through a boxing match summarized by Pulitzer Prize winner Norman Mailer. And as you were lost in the swirl of metaphors and implications to the larger socio-political struggle of man that these two pugilists represented, and there came a rapping at your door. The excitement overwhelmed you as it was the delivery man bringing the newest order of Hogak the Arisen Necropolis from Oasis Games. If you would like to experience the unrivaled joy sparking that came from that delivery, then you can have it for yourself. Just head over to mtgoasis.com and use the code CCMTG for 15% off your first order. And then you can use code Would That Be Good for 4% off every order. You can also use code Why Did Trey Talk About Boxing? It won't do anything, but you certainly can try it.
Yeah, I agree, Spencer. It's so funny that people don't use the promo code, right? Like, it's such an easy promo code to use. You get so much value, and we thank Oasis Game for that sponsorship, and we thank WotC for all the free wins we get with Hogak. So,
I think the code really moves the needle. Speaking of moving the needle, let's talk about biggest movers.
Ooh, I see what you did there, Spencer.
Mine is Hogak the Arisen Necropolis.
Oh, were you low on this card in the set review? Is that why it's your biggest mover?
I was not.
But
I
biggest
believe
mover,
that the classification may have been by a lot of people that it was not good. And I'm not even just talking about people on the pod. I'm talking about like the general community was that this card was not good. And now it has definitely moved considerably. It also has moved a lot financially. What a roller coaster is going on with this card.
That's big facts.
I mean, we went from $2 to $30 to $10.
Yeah.
In like the span of a week.
Yeah, I think that we obviously talked about how wrong we were about this card while Trey was gone.
I just wanted to savor a little bit of the flavor. That's all.
I see.
I do think that you are abusing our biggest mover segment because it didn't move for you.
I also think that you knew we were going to talk about Hogak later, and this is just really you're like triple dipping here because you knew we were going to have to talk about it.
Like, I would never do that. There's no way that I would mention it in the ad, mention it in Biggest Mover, mention it in the main segment.
Yeah.
I would never do that. That would be gloating in a way that would never be professional for a podcaster, and I would never do that to you, my friends and co-hosts.
Well, good thing you're a movie maker.
You should be a salesman because those lies were strong.
Spoiler, that's what it is to be a filmmaker these days. Tell no one.
Okay. I talked about this card last week. I don't actually know that we have much to say about Hogak other than 8/8s are big. Like, they kill you fast. Well, I can kind of talk about it in my biggest mover. My biggest mover is actually Gravecrawler. It's really funny that just not that long ago, maybe about a year ago, we saw Stitcher Supplier hit the battlefield, and Stitcher Supplier being a zombie was like the best thing in the world for Gravecrawler. It invented this whole new archetype. People were all about it. It was so fast. And then it kind of disappeared off the map. Then Carrion Feeder comes out. Another zombie for Gravecrawler. And at this point, your Vengevines are going, num zombies. Like, Gravecrawler has gotten a lot of help the last 2 years, guys. Like, this is to the point where you're playing between you're playing 12 main deck zombies. 12. That's a lot.
That's not even counting all the ones you get off a bridge.
That's right.
Yeah, it's kind of like 14 in a way, right?
Yeah, it's really just a lot of zombies. Gravecrawler, I got to watch some of this deck play, and that was the card that I was like, all right, well, I guess this is why Hogak is really good all of a sudden. Like, this card in combination with Karen Feeder and Stitcher Splier just really makes those Hogaks pop, if you know what I mean. So it's definitely my biggest mover up in that deck. Gravecrawler was kind of, you know, an integral part of the deck before, but I think it really shines now.
And Mason, which card from Bridgevine is your biggest mover this week?
None. I have no cards.
I was gonna have the biggest mover down, but I changed my mind.
I have a hot one and I have my normal one. I'm gonna go with my normal one. I don't want to incite rage in this podcast. My biggest mover up is Teferi, the Time Raveler in Modern. That is Teferi 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is a card that I thought would be pretty good in the blue-white deck. It's kind of a way to like break the mirror wide open. But I played the Saheeli Cat deck at Nike this past weekend, and I was surprised at just how powerful that card was at like disrupting my opponent along the way and allowing me to cast my sorceries on their turn and just bounce problematic permanents. Like I played against a Hogak deck, and they like tapped out for an altar on turn 2, and then it went to my turn 3, and I played the Teferi and bounced the altar. And Altar, if you've played against that deck, makes the deck go so fast, but they didn't have enough lands to like redeploy it and do stuff, and just it bought me a critical turn, and it did that all throughout the day. Well, also since I was playing a combo deck, I had plenty of times where I like played my Teferi and then like protected it for a turn cycle, and then played Cat Flicker to land, so Healy comboed them, and they couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, I was really impressed by that card, and it was a card I was kind of hot medium on, and now I'm kind of like, okay, this card's like a role player, like it actually does stuff. So.
Yeah, my biggest mover down actually would have been Blue Eye Control. I legitimately thought when War was printed that Blue Eye Control became the best deck in Modern. Like I was quite sure it was just the best deck, that you should have been playing it, to the point where now I don't think that's true after, you know, Modern Horizons. It was such a short-lived like, you should be doing this too. That's fine. Like, it would have been Blue Eye Control as a deck would have been my biggest mover down, and also it's seeing less Teferis are seen playing that deck now too, which is interesting.
Yeah,
but Teferi's still really good in that deck. Buying back Snapcaster, Mage, Vendilion Click is no joke.
Yeah, that's for sure. I had a cool interaction come up against Blue White Control. I was playing against them where I had a Teferi, and I like, you know, minused it to like on draw nothing, and then I played a Felidar Guardian, flickered my Teferi, bounced my Felidar Guardian back to my hand, drew a card, and like did that for a couple turns because I was just trying to find gas, and we both flooded out. And it's just like, oh, this is really cool. But yeah, Teferi is impressive, and we're gonna talk more about Blue White later. But I think if it wasn't for Hogak, the deck would still be really, really, really good, and it might still be good even with Hogak.
I'm not even saying the deck is unplayable all of a sudden. It just went from like, in my opinion, undoubtedly the best deck to maybe not. Like,
yeah,
I mean, definitely not. But
I think it's a top 5 deck for sure, though. But I think that's what you're saying too. I think I just misunderstood you at first.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let's go into our segment this week. So we were going to do a standard kind of mega rankings episode to go over all of the things that have been happening in standard. But instead, just kind of due to the nature of the fact that modern MCQs are coming up and all this, you know, it's possible there's no bannings. And if there's not, you know, we want to get a chance to talk about these decks while the getting's hot. So I did do a mini power rankings with just the modern challenge results, because that's the only event that we have in New Modern so far. So with 4 points, we had quite a big tie. I'm just going to go over the decks. We're going to go kind of deep into the decks as we look over the results between 5-0s and stuff. But with 4 points, we had Burn, Were, Humans, and Eldrazi-tron. So that's 4th through 7th, all had 4 points. In third place, we had Blue Eye Control with 7 points. In second place, we had Mono Red Phoenix with 9 points. And just to be clear, there was 0 Izzet Phoenix decks to top 32 the Modern Challenge. 19 different decks did top 32. Izzet Phoenix was not one of them. And then in first place, we have the new Boogeyman, or the new Hogak, as I like to call it.
Big Hogue.
The Big Hogues.
Mm-hmm.
We have Bridgevine coming in with 22 points. So really interesting. I mean, just like, you know, every single deck in 4th through 7th had 2 finishes. So, you know, we have 4 decks coming in with 2 finishes each. and then every deck with more than 2 finishes made the top 3. Do you guys want to talk about anything in particular to start with? We could obviously talk about some of the more interesting things that are happening to the format. I think Mono Red Phoenix is definitely one of those things. Lava Spike is a card that I would not have been particularly high on. Or not Lava Spike.
Lava Dart.
Lava Dart is a card that I would have not been particularly high on. It's seeing a little bit of play.
Yeah, I think Lava Dart's a pretty big get for that deck for a couple of reasons. One, I think like especially with the Mono Red Phoenix deck, sometimes it's hard to to triple spell for your Phoenix. Like, you just don't have the same like card replacement level that the Izzet Phoenix deck does. Instead, you just bolt them a bunch, and you have a bunch of things that deal damage, and you kill them. So hopefully, you don't have to bring back your Phoenixes as reliably. But Lava Dart lets you do that. Lava Dart's also pretty good against some of the decks that are popping up right now, right? Like, you can Lava Dart down a Carrion Feeder. You can, before it gets big with other things, you can Lava Dart down the Devoted Druid combo pieces, like the Vizier Remedies, etc., and some of the birds that deck plays. And that's another deck that's gotten pretty big, even though we aren't seeing many results here. Also, I think it's just great with the Prowess creatures. It reads like Bolt for sacrificing a land. I'm sorry, better than Bolt if you pay sacrifice a land. So, yeah, I think it's a pretty great addition to the deck.
The deck in top 8 was not playing it looks like, for what it's worth.
Huh, interesting. I've played some Magic Online leagues, which is a new thing for me. Well, I guess it's an oldie but a goodie these days. But getting ready for SCG Pittsburgh, I've been getting Lava Darted a bunch and get hit with Swift Spears and Soulscar Mages, and it hurts. Let me tell you, it hurts.
Yeah, there were, interestingly enough, I don't know if the other list was incorrect, the 6th place list that was posted. Mm-hmm. Well, this one did play 3 Lava Darts for what it's worth, actually.
Okay.
But there was a Prowess deck that was just Blister Coil Weirds, Monastery Swift Spears, and Soulscar Mages with no Arclight Phoenix. It was just Prowess that did well at this event.
Was it the Scale Up one?
I don't think so.
Okay. In case you don't know at home, by the way, Scale Up, the way it works with Prowess creatures is you'll cast on the creature, it becomes a 6/4, and then Prowess still triggers and it becomes a 7/5. Yeah. So, hits them hard. Yeah. Which is a weird interaction, but it works that way. Yeah, I think the Phoenix decks are pretty cool. Trey, have you gotten to play against the Phoenix decks any? We'll look at these Mono Red Phoenix decks.
I haven't played much against the Mono Red. I mean, in the event that we played in this weekend, I actually played against Izzet Phoenix twice or 3 times. Like, there was a Mono Red Phoenix deck there, but I saw more of the traditional Izzet Phoenix lists. But I mean, even with that, those cards are still showing up. I mean, Jerry Thompson tweeted out an Izzet list that had Lava Darts in it recently as well. That card's making an impact, I think, in all instances of Phoenix.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things that was really interesting that I saw in these decks is also what is the Fork Bolt. Fork Bolt is seeing play as well, and that's a card that I don't know that you would think is just going to see a bunch of play in Modern right now. It seems like a very fair Magic card. Not sure exactly what decks it's slowing down, other than getting a little bit lucky against humans. What are your guys' thoughts on Fork Bolt seeing a little bit of play these days?
I actually played it I played 2 in the sideboard last night. I did an Izzet Delver League, and I had that for specifically humans because it can be a 1-for-1. Sometimes you do get lucky, but it can kill off like Meddling Mages and stuff like that. Hits the Devoted Druid combo like I talked about earlier. And I think it's like pretty reasonable. I don't think it's like busted or some absurd tech or anything, but I think it's reasonable. Sometimes you get lucky though, and you do like snag like a Noble Hierarch and like a Phantasmal Image out of humans. But I think it's just like something you can do right now. Trey, what do you think?
I mean, I think the card's pretty medium. I mean, when you have those turns when you get a blowout with it, it's going to feel great, but the rest of the time it's going to be like, it's mostly worth shock in this situation. But the upside of it that you get against certain decks is good. And I mean, even against the Bridgevine decks, like they have a lot of X1s that come into play. I mean, it might buy you a little bit of time in a situation where you need to.
Yeah, for sure.
But one of the things that's interesting, I think, that probably about the rise of Mono Red Phoenix, if you have these other combo decks that are particularly fast, you have this feeling that you need to race as opposed to like setting things up with a thing in the ice and trying to go in that type of a direction and flipping to control the board and hit big in those turns. I mean, the Mono Red decks are generally like the faster of the Phoenix decks. They're just the less like overall powerful in the long game of the Phoenix decks, and so there's probably a feeling that way.
with between Monastery Swift Spirit, Soulscar Mage, plus Lava Spike in your deck, you're just going to be substantially faster than the other decks. I mean, not to say that the original Izzet Phoenix decks were still playing Lava Spike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it is something that they could go back to. I don't think that would be hard for them.
I almost wonder too if like the decks that made up the top 32 and Hogak hurt Izzet Phoenix's representation to the point that like it is weird that we saw zero of it, but like Eldrazi Tron seems like a bad matchup. Blue White Control is a pretty bad matchup. Burn I've heard is a bad matchup once if you're not like really proficient with Izzet Phoenix. And then I imagine a lot of people that played Bridgevine with the Hogak decks were people that would traditionally play Phoenix, kind of like the best deck type people. So I wonder if that was something, or I wonder if it is just like it's not about having those extra cantrips, it's about going fast. I was watching Ali Warfield stream before we got on here, and she was playing Izzet Phoenix, and she was doing pretty well against the Bridgevine decks. And I talked to Drake Sasser at the IQ, and he was saying, you do have some cards that line up well against Bridgevine, especially if you're willing to put the Surgicals back in your deck. So I wonder if maybe the format's just too wide right now, if it's too much new stuff. I don't know.
You think? Would you say that Modern is the Ricky Bobby of Magic formats?
Kind of. I think Blue Eye Control is still pretty good. So if anything, Blue Eye Control is like Sacha Baron Cohen in that movie. He comes in from France. He plays a different angle, Ricky Bobby, and gets him. Unfortunately, I'm a failure, and I can't remember his name in the movie. I mean, that's a classic. But yeah, it is about going pretty fast right now. I definitely felt under the gun when I was playing the cat deck. I felt like I was having to combo in a lot of matchups, which is probably not a good sign for that deck. But
Dude, this 9th place list, I know this is super off topic, but this list is hot.
What is it for the people at home?
Yeah, sorry. It's Infect.
Is it Giver of Runes Infect?
I don't see the Giver of Ruins.
Okay, that's Aaron Barrich has been pretty big on that, and I think that's actually really good.
I'm just gonna read this off because this is like so for those who don't know, for GP Detroit last year, the format was team modern, and I was tasked with learning Infect. So I played like 15 leagues with Infect. So I actually know the deck a surprising amount for somebody who would like basically never play the deck outside of that. But this list is 1 Birds of Paradise, 4 Blighted Agent, 4 Glistener Elf, 4 Noble Hierarch, 1 Spellskite, 2 Distortion Strike, 4 Scale Up, 2 Apostle's Blessing, 3 Blossoming Defense, 1 Dismember, 4 Groundswell, 4 Might of Volcrosa, 1 Spell Pierce, 1 Twisted Image, 4 Vines of Vastwood, 20 lands. Let's see if there's anything super spicy. Oh, it does have the Waterlogged Groves.
All right, that's the Canopy land.
That's sweet.
Yep.
For this deck. That's actually just like the best replacement ever for blue green land.
If you end up in a situation where everyone's trying to go fast, Infect is still not a bad place to be. Like Infect goes fast.
Yeah, absolutely. I also just it has the Viridian Corrupt on the board for the extra Infect creature. Whether it's that or the main deck Echo Claw Mirror, which I was playing over the Birds of Paradise. It's really interesting to see this. The other thing that I think that Scale Up gets to do for this deck is there's like a pretty high percentage of the games where you just are like, I'm just going to win with damage instead. And I think Scale Up actually helps with that quite a bit because it's so much pumping. So having Birds of Paradise to help you fix your mana, which is a pretty easy way for you to lose with this deck by not having blue mana, it is pretty sweet. I don't know. I'm really impressed with this list. I know it's not in our top 7 decks. But it would have been pretty close had it just gotten 1 or 2 more wins.
Yeah, I also think it's worth talking about. Like I know I mentioned it earlier. I think Giver of Runes. It's something if you're an Infect player you should look at. Giver of Runes allows you to like attack through these human decks, attack through like just stalled board state, which sometimes your Glistener Elf draws this can't allow you to do. That just you have to kind of like hope to draw a Distortion Strike, and it kind of plays like Spellskite for 1 mana. Now you have to play white mana, and it involves you playing some more fetches and maybe not getting as much waterlogs. But we talked about this in the set review show. There's a lot of different things you can do with Infect right now. So if you're an Infect player, I would definitely look at this, look at that, see what you want to do, and see how you want to do it too. Because like we said there's a lot of different ways you can go with Infect right now, which is I do not think is the traditional history of Infect. I think normally there was like an Infect way for the weekend, maybe some things change up a little bit. But right now it kind of seems like the Wild West.
And for anyone who doesn't know what Giver of Ruins is, it's a 1 white, 1/2 core cleric. Tap another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn.
Yeah, and the colorless part is pretty huge because Eldrazi Tron is like a pretty good matchup, but sometimes they can clog up the board against your Glistener Elf draws, and suddenly, cha-chow, you win the game. So, get them.
Fun fact: if I was to play a deck with Tron lands right now, I would play Eldrazi Tron. Whoa! Spencer Howland said that, ladies and gentlemen.
Boom. Sound clipping Andrew. But yeah, let's talk about Eldrazi Tron. Eldrazi Tron is pretty powerful right now, you know? We always talk about how Eldrazi Tron is one of the best Chalice decks in the format. Chalice is like pretty great right now. There's a lot of decks that Chalice just shuts down per usual, but a lot of the, you know, if we look at these decks, Bridgevine is actually surprisingly good against. Mono Red Phoenix, very good against. Blue White Control, passable. The Mirror, terrible. But Humans, Whir, Burn, all those decks are pretty bad. In fact, it's great against them. Like, the Devoted Druid deck we talked about a little bit in passing, that deck, it's good against that one. It just does a lot of different things. I'm sorry, it just does a lot for that deck. And the deck also got some upgrades from the newest set. From War, I should say, with Ugin, which not everyone plays, but it's a cool new tool the deck has.
Ugin the Ineffable is like really effing good for this deck. So
what did you say his name was?
Ineffable?
Infallible?
It says Ineffable.
Oh, is it? I always thought the card was Infallible. Okay, I never actually took the time to pronounce it. Okay, I thought you were like making an effing joke about it.
Is unfallible.
All right. Well,
I was making a joke that he's effing great, but I'm pretty sure it's Ugin the Ineffable.
All right, that's my bad. I'm sorry. I just never took the time to actually read it. Kind of just assumed. That's on me. But yeah, speaking of
you just never saw him make a mistake, so you were like, "He's not fallible. I know what this is."
Yeah,
he's
the
Spirit
right
Dragon every time.
Yeah.
No, I think this deck, like you're saying, got some huge upgrades. Karn the Great Creator,
that's another big one,
is just really good for this deck because you're like, I really like it in this more than I like it in the regular Tron decks. I think that this deck, I don't know, I think it has better uses for it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I've really, I got to watch somebody stream this deck the other day, and I was like, wow, Karn the Great Creator's really, really good in this. You're kind of shaking your head there, Mason.
I was just trying to think of what makes it better, because one of the things I actually like about Karn the Great Creator and Tron is that on turn 3, if you hit your Tron lands, you can play it plus 3-ball or Trinisphere, and that pretty much locks most people out of the game. I'm trying to think of the differences between Eldrazi Tron's sideboards and what they get to play and what Tron gets to play. So I was more just kind of thinking about why it would be different, you know?
I think it's just more that, like, you're playing an already mid-range deck with Eldrazi Tron, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I know it's kind of big mana, but, you play this more mid-range game plan than natural Tron does. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, like, I think that you get more use out of the card. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm willing to believe that I'm wrong, but
I don't know either way. I was more just when you saw my face, I was trying to think of like what are the cards that are different and how they apply.
If you do play the 10th place, if you play the 10th place Eldrazi Tron list, it has a trading post in the sideboard, so you can use your Michael Hinderrocker tokens.
Wow, rest in peace. Never forget him. Always had those tokens. Yeah, the trading post is pretty hot. That's the one that's like draw a card, make a goat, gain 4 life, buy back something, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I never actually played that card. Everyone just always tells me the old trading post decks.
That deck was so sweet.
That's sweet. Literally what I hear every time. I've never heard. No one's ever told me anything about the deck. It's like, oh, it was really sweet. And I'm like, what did it do? And they're like, don't be an idiot. It was really sweet.
It makes goats. You already talked about it.
Yeah.
It was like a control deck. It was just a really fun control deck that played trade. Like, it was just kind of refreshing to have trading post be the centerpiece of a control deck rather than a planeswalker. I mean, the deck still played planeswalkers, but like, trading post was the stuff.
Which is basically a planeswalker.
Was it a Brad Nelson deck?
Brad Nelson did play the deck, yes.
Okay, I saw a Brad Nelson goat token. It never hit me until now. Think about it. Speaking of thinking about it.
Thinking about Battle of Wits in 11th place? Is that what you're going to say?
Nope. I was going to think about Humans, and I was going to throw it to Trey. Trey, what do you think about Humans? Because it's got a lot of new stuff. I've seen people play Jeskai Humans online. It's craziness.
Humans is great, and there's the new Unceremonious Mariner. Is that the name of the card, or what is it called?
That sounds right.
Something like that. The taxing effect, the counter a spell or ability to target your creatures unless your opponent pays 1 more. We talked about this in the set review. The big thing about it is that it is not legendary. You can get multiple of those into play, especially if you've got other decks that are trying to go fast. They're normally going to be relatively low on lands, and that gets out of hand in a hurry It's also an additional blue creature as a blue spell, which allows you to play Force of Negation, particularly out of the side, which is big game for these human decks as well, and gives them real pieces of interaction against these broken combo decks that otherwise may have been difficult. You always have to like kind of have these soft interactions or guess right with your meddling mages or kite sail them or have Teague be good or something else. But now you have these like strict, like you can just force things that are happening to keep their broken things from going. And the humans deck does a very effective job of clocking someone very quickly if you can buy a turn in that regard. And so I think that those are a couple of tools that do a lot to moving the humans deck back to the forefront of what's going on in Modern.
Yeah.
To me,
Sorry.
Oh,
You go. I'm looking something up still.
well, I don't know if you guys saw the 16th place list from this weekend, but it's soldier humans. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I'm scrolling.
didn't know.
I was thinking of people that adopted Force Negation because if you follow Dylan Hand on Twitter, he tweeted a picture of that, and Drake Sassor was at our IQ, and we know Drake, and so we were talking to him about it, and he was saying it seemed pretty reasonable to have Force Negation in your sideboard, but I wasn't sure if people caught on to it. And now I've taken enough time to scroll. Hello, Kithian.
Yeah. Also, Unsettled Mariner is the name of the card. I've taken an opportunity to make sure that I get it right.
Awesome.
Oh, I saw something kind of similar to this at SCG Kentucky. It was next to me in a round. It obviously wasn't exactly this, but this is a pretty cool take on it. This is also, maybe this is what I played against, or a deck that was similar to this. I played against a Jeskai Humans deck. They definitely had Mana Shrider, but they had Bolt and Helix in their deck instead of like Kite Self Rebooter and other random cards, I assume. This is an interesting take on it. I imagine this mana has to be better. This is kind of me assuming, though. 3 Mutavaults maybe doesn't make that true, but yeah, this is pretty cool. I'd be down to try this in a league.
This is one. Go ahead.
What is Jotun Grunt?
Jotun Grunt is 1 and a white for a 4/4 giant soldier. It's got cumulative upkeep to put 2 cards from a single graveyard onto the bottom of their owner's library.
That card's so big. It's a 2-mana 4/4. Wow. This deck plays 3 of it in the sideboard, in case you're wondering why we're talking about that card.
Yeah, there's just a lot of things going on in Modern that I think are pretty different. We talked about Eldrazi making a comeback. We talked about Humans. It was making a comeback due to Izzet Phoenix. But I also think that Humans is like one of the decks that is good to be pushing people on. So Humans doing getting a couple in the top, getting 4 points is not surprising to me either, as it is just kind of solidified itself as one of the best decks. But this is an interesting, more aggressive take, it feels like, on the deck.
Yeah, and so one thing to be clear, this list that we're looking at and talking about is it's a Boros Soldiers deck.
Soldiers deck, yeah.
Just red white, no other colors, and plays like Lightning Helix, Lightning Bolt, Path.
Grunt is target player's graveyard. I missed that at first. You hit their Hogax, the Hoagie deck. You hit them. That's pretty cool. I didn't understand that at first. I was dumb.
It's really, really good sideboard deck.
Yeah. One thing to note too about these decks, and it's not surprising when you think about it, is that, like, these decks have been told to have a pretty good Hogak matchup because they get on the board pretty quickly and don't give them time just to like set up everything, and that can be something that Hogak has a little bit of trouble with. Is a fast clock plus just a little bit of disruption. Like something like the Giants or a meddling mage on the right card, or a Reflector mage and doing the right thing. Either way, though, yeah. So it's not surprising to see this. I wonder if this is if there's like more to this archetype. You know what I mean? I wonder if more people are going to explore this, because the Gideon Blackblade's pretty cool. This is like looks like they were trying a lot of stuff, or maybe these are just the right numbers. I don't know. It's very interesting.
It does look like there's a lot of fun ofs in the deck, like, because the numbers are a little weird.
Yeah, I'm curious if this is something they always play, or if this is something where they're like, my friend said they 502 leagues with this deck, play this deck. You know what I mean? And so they did it, and they got 16th place. Because that's the thing that definitely happens. You don't know what to play. Friend says play something that's a little wild. You're like, I'm willing to have a good time, and you go and rock in with something like this. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, they're certainly trying to rock the Mamba here.
Yeah, the Mamba is rocked. Do you know what else rocks the Mamba?
Still not a thing.
War Prison. What a great deck. Right?
I am a little surprised to see this. I know that I got Goblin Engineer and I got Urza. I don't know how I feel about this deck in this metagame.
If you can establish the Snaring Bridge and the Witchbane Orb, you lock the Hogers out. I know that.
That's true. I mean, the list that got 15th place is playing Thopter combo.
Mm-hmm.
You know, due to the kind of the new cards that the deck got. So it's certainly interesting that the deck kind of gets to play new cards. I don't even know that like, is it just War Prison if it plays Ensnaring Bridge and War Intervention, or is there more to that deck than that? Because the 15th place list certainly is a War deck, but it has prison elements. I don't know. What do you guys think?
You're talking about is that the canister Thopter combo deck?
Yeah, I think it's a little. It probably, I don't know. It is prison-esque. We probably should not have put this under the War thing. Maybe it's like a sub-archetype of War, and you just have to like differentiate when you talk about it.
I mean, it could just be an evolution of the deck, right? Like, it certainly is taking, a lot of elements from both the Thopter combo decks of the past as well as the War decks of right now.
Actually,
it does feel weird to like talk about an infinite combo deck as a prison deck. Like that seems strange.
Just to be clear, I think both of the War decks were Thopter Sword decks.
Well, we probably should call them Thopter Sword then, because the thing about War, at least in my mind, and maybe this is like a me thing, is that they are prison decks. And I think the Thopter Sword decks can be prison, but they're like combo decks first. Like having Grinding Station and stuff in your deck doesn't fit like the prison archetype to me. But
also, they're going hard on like Psy and other things. Like these seem like much more like combo decks than prison decks.
Yeah, I definitely saw some Wars in like the 5-0s and stuff like that too, and that's kind of what I was thinking about. I will say one thing about War is it's a lot to get all that assembled before the Hogak gets you, if they have the altar, because the altar would just allow them to mill you out pretty quickly. So
even on just without the altar, I mean, I know we haven't really talked about the Hogak deck yet, but
let's just talk about that, by the way, right now. Let's just
do it. Like you can have a bad start with the Hogak deck, and what you've done is just play 2 creatures and a Hogak on turn 2. Like, and you just have 10 power that you're swinging on turn 3. Like, that can be like a bad start with the deck. It's a dredge deck fundamentally, so there are going to be times where the deck just literally doesn't do anything and you die. Like, you're going to have things where it stumbles and it doesn't function right, and you're not going to have, like, that's a fail rate that happens with dredge. Like, any kind of dredge deck. And you trade that with the, like, overall power level that you get on the times when you're doing stuff. One of the things that's fascinating to me about this deck so far is that this deck is still so early in its iterations, and there's not a consensus or an agreement as to what a lot of the flex spots are supposed to be, and that the edges that are going to come in from that being tuned haven't happened yet. There's like a core amount of the deck, like you're going to be playing Stitcher Supplier, you're going to be playing Hogak, you're going to be playing Altar, you're going to be playing Faithless Looting Bridge from Below. Some number of Gravecrawlers, but like even the number of Gravecrawlers hasn't been consistent across the lists. Whether or not you should be playing dredge cards at all is not consistent across the list. Whether or not you should be playing additional discard outlets is not consistent. There's a lot of people trying a lot of different things, and it's going to be interesting to see what the iterations of that are.
Yeah, the top 3 lists, for what it's worth, were all a total of 1 card off from each other outside of the lands, with one of them playing 19 lands to be that 1 card. So it does look like 4 Bloodbath, 4 Carrion Feeder, 4 Gravecrawler, 4 Hogak, 4 Insolent Neonate, 4 Stitcher Supplier, 4 Vengevine, 4 Faithless Looting, and 4 Altar of Dimension, 4 Bridge from Below is absolutely correct. The only question is, do you want 2 Dark Blasts? Do you want 1 Dark Blast, 1 Lightning Axe? Do you want the extra land over the second Dark Blast? And that's just the exact same for all of the lists in the top 3.
Well, yeah,
that's true for all of them. I think, to be honest, I think it's all those little.
No, there's some that are like 12 cards off.
The 8th place
Yeah.
list was 3 Bloodghasts, 3 Carrion Feeder, 2 Golgari Thug, 3 Gravecrawler, 4 Hogak, 4
Noose Constrictor,
1 Noose Constrictor.
Oh, the VTC
deck.
Okay.
4 Stitcher Supplier, 4 Vengevine. And
then this is actually to be fair though, this is the early version of the deck, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Because I saw a couple of people posting screenshots with Stinkweed Imp. And so I actually just thought the deck was like kind of a weird dredge deck at first. Didn't realize that because I didn't see some of the other stuff, I didn't actually realize that it was a Vengevine deck. But I don't know. I think that the top 3 of this starts to make me think that the main deck might be solidified a little bit.
Yeah, I think it really does. It reminds me a lot of Is It Phoenix, where it was like, okay, we have like all the cantrips or the Thing in the Ices. We got this. Like, do we play snaps? Do we play gut shots? Do we play surgicals? And it's kind of like it's those few spots we're trying to get. Because I do think the core that you listed is really powerful and really consistent. And I would be surprised if that's not really, really close to what the core is supposed to be. And we just need to figure out what the two slots are.
I'm sure one of those 4-ofs gets turned into a 3/2 to find a couple extra flex slots, because you'll want some extra flex slots as the format shapes up. But
yeah, sure. But yeah, agreed. Yes, you will change things up because things will change. But I think that is like really close to like the streamlined version of the shell, and then innovations will come from there. And before we move on to any other deck, we talk about anything else, I guess we should kind of address: do we think this deck should be banned? Where do we all kind of stand?
100%, no question.
No question.
I have zero doubt in my mind that Bridge from Below should be banned in Modern.
Now, I'm gonna follow up, because it's not a question about whether it should be banned or not. Do you think it'll be banned before MC Barcelona or after MC Barcelona?
I think it will be banned before.
Banned before, okay, all right.
So here's the thing, like, I just think that Bridge from Below itself, I think Jerry might have said something like this, but like Bridge from Below just doesn't like follow the rules set by. I mean, it's so stupid because they just don't follow the rules set by Modern anymore. Like I don't know. It's possible that they're just like, you know what, whatever. If we can't stop Modern from being this way, we're gonna unban Splinter Twin. We're gonna unban Stoneforge Mystic. And they'll just do unbannings instead. And I think that would shake things up as well. It's just hard for me to like, just kind of watching people try Modern out. I don't know. This deck seems really, really consistent. Carrion Feeder was like a huge get for the deck.
No doubt.
I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I think it's going to get banned too eventually.
Everyone knew this was going to be the deck to play going into this weekend. Like, I don't think anybody who pays 2 seconds of attention to Modern going to this weekend wasn't like, I better be ready. I better not worry about Dredgevine. And it took first, second, and third.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that this deck is very powerful. It's also very consistent. But, with graveyard decks, always, like with Dredge, like if you want to beat these decks, you can beat these decks. Like,
the problem is this deck is so much faster than Dredge.
It is, but it's like it still suffers. Like if your opponent plays a Grafdigger's Cage on one, like it still has all of the same problems that another Dredge deck has with those kinds of things. Like if you have to deal
getting to play Ingot Chewer is a pretty big game, like, and really, really happily playing it.
Sure. Or you also have access to Shenanigans, which some lists have Shenanigans. Ingot Chewer is an advantage because it recurs Revenge Vines, right?
All right, real talk. This is the 6th time it's been mentioned to me today. I'm looking at it right now for the first time. 1 red, destroy target artifact, Dredge 1. Got it. Glad we had that conversation.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Shenanigans. I was so confused.
Yeah.
I was like, it's been mentioned 6 times. So I'm like, Ingot Chewer has been mentioned to you 6 times?
No, so many people are really excited that there's a card called Shenanigans, and they keep talking to me about it. I'm like, I don't know what this card is.
I do think it's good, especially because like you previously in graveyard based decks were playing like Ancient Grudge, because if you milled it, then you could flash it back. But
Sure.
It still suffered the same problem against like a lot of hate pieces that like, okay, if they have like, a Grafdigger's Cage or something like that, then you can't flash back, right? But like with Shenanigans, you can just dredge it back to your hand and cast it. So it is an improvement in that regard. It also continues your engine going. The cards.
I don't know, the London Mulligan to like make sure that you have Nature's Claim post-board against decks that you think will have certain things is a pretty big game.
No doubt.
One thing that this deck suffers from that I don't think Dredge suffers from as much is like it mulligans a lot worse than Dredge, so that's kind of good.
A lot worse. Yeah,
it needs a lot of cards. I mean, it's very powerful and it can be very explosive, but it has a fail rate in and of itself, and it also is a thing that like it suffers against graveyard hate, which is. There are very good targeted graveyard hate cards for basically every archetype.
I think the main problem is it's so fun.
I really hate the part of Modern where every couple months we talk about some graveyard deck that's completely broken. Like, the thing is that, the graveyard lets you play with so much of your deck that in Modern where there aren't, like, there's not a fair card like Brainstorm to like, and I'm calling it fair, right? But obviously Brainstorm's not really a fair card. I don't know. To answer your question, Mason, I really do hope that this gets banned. I don't know if I said it I think I said it on the set review show. or maybe even you did too. But like, there's just not a lot of reasons for a card like Hogak to see play. Like either it is way too good, or like the deck it's enabling is way too good, or it doesn't see play at all. And I don't know. I don't like cards like that.
Yeah, I think that the main problem is Alter. Someone compared Alter to KCI in the deck, and as soon as they said that, it clicked. And it's like, yeah, that's like totally what it is. Like when the deck has Alter, it's like almost unbeatable because it plays from an angle it's not supposed to, and it fuels itself in this like weird way.
Yeah, fueling itself is really annoying.
Yeah, and it makes Bridge more oppressive. So I think like if you wanted to keep the deck and make it slow it down, I think getting rid of Alter would be like the way to do it, because then you don't have weird things where it's like I watched Trey like put a Hogak into play and he's like, I got 2 bridges, so I'm gonna mill my Hogak, get 2 zombies, use the zombies, convoke, dredge the cards, do that, get enough bridges, get enough zombies, sack everything, mill you out turn 2. And it's just like, oh yeah, like your deck can do that, that's really cool. But if it's just like putting a bunch of power in play, that we can beat in Modern. And I think the deck will probably get banned because it's like unfun to play against and forces you to have so much hate, and it's kind of ridiculous. And I don't know. I just think that's a good enough reason to ban it. But I don't want to dwell any more time on that. I want to talk about a deck that tries to beat this deck and probably can't because of Alter, but if Alter is gone, probably definitely could. Blue-white control, baby. They've got Foth. You want a fair card, Spencer? I'm going to cast my Foth, and then whenever pile you pick, it doesn't matter because I got Snapcaster Mage.
So for anyone who doesn't know what Foth is, it's Factor Fiction. Because Foth is not necessarily a universally adopted shorthand here.
It's about to be, because I'm going to be Foffing an end of turn. And Foffing over here and Foffing over there.
So Foth is the Rock the Mamba of card nicknames. That's where we are.
That's just not true. Rock That Mamba's way more catchy. But Factor Fiction, I don't even know if it's that good in the deck. I just wanted to move on to Blue-White Control because there's some cool stuff going on. Trey, you hate Blue-White Control. Spencer's down on Blue-White Control. Where do you fall, though, on Blue-White Control now with all the new stuff? You know, you got Archmage's Charm. You've got Factor Fiction. You've got some cool stuff.
Archmage's Charm right now.
I think you can, for what it's worth. Like, I think it's like a fine one of or whatever. Like, there are fair things going on. Like, that card is really powerful.
There are fair things going on. I mean, I don't love having, like, if I'm playing Hogak, I don't really want to play against Blue-White Control a lot. Like, it is a deck that has a reasonable matchup against it. That is something that, like, can create
I don't think
problems.
you have a reasonable matchup against Altar of Dementia. Like, they get to play it on turn 2. Like, you can't actually play that many D-Spheres right now. It looks like the list that took 5th place actually played 0 of them. Altar of Dementia seems like a pretty big problem. One of the things that sorry, I totally interrupted. Keep going.
That's fine. What I was going to say is that, yes, the deck does have a problem if you have Altar in play. But, like, the deck doesn't just put Altar in play every game. Like,
yeah.
That it is the only card that is just like the 4 of, and there's not like a redundant version of that effect. And so, like, yes, that is the best thing that you can do against the blue-white players if you're the Hogak player. But if you don't have it, you can struggle against that matchup.
I wonder if Blue-White is supposed to adopt more Rest in Peace in order to beat this, but maybe that's not enough.
I don't know. Blue-White is like a really, really good Snapcaster Surgical Extraction deck. One of the reasons being, like, between, like, you get the first Surgical off to slow them down, right? And then, like, you have Narset and Jace the Mind Sculptor to find Snapcaster more surgical, and the game really gets out of hand from there if that's kind of how things happen. But that's actually why I think the deck has such a good Dredge matchup. But the problem is like how much faster this Dredgevine deck is than. I mean, you still have. I mean, you have Path to Exile, right? Like you have things that can do stuff. It's just a lot harder.
Yeah, I wonder if Blue-White's just kind of a deck that can't beat the broken draws like a lot of decks can't in Modern from Hogak. Not like the insane draws, but like the really, really good draws, but the average to below average draws it just like mops the floor with, and that's where like this differing opinion comes from. I don't know. I do think it's reasonable. I think it's reasonable against a lot of the decks going on in Modern right now. And it might just be that you need to play more Surgicals or maybe move away from that plan, but that plan is really powerful like you said. So I don't know. It's very interesting. I think the deck's pretty reasonable right now. I definitely agree it's not the best deck in Modern, but I think it's definitely a top deck still.
I mean, it's the deck I would play tomorrow.
You wouldn't play Saheeli Cat? You wouldn't cat? All right, reasonable. Totally reasonable.
I mean, I would play Blue-White tomorrow, but that's just because, like, it's probably the Modern deck that I know the best that I think is decently positioned. I mean, not to say that, you know, Volakut decks aren't well positioned. They're actually pretty good against graveyard decks in general. The problem is like they're not, because of the rise of graveyard decks, the format changes a lot, right? And I don't know that I want to be playing against Mono Red Phoenix with Scapeshift right now.
Yeah, Mono Red Phoenix is like one of the more yikes matchups, to say the least.
Yeah, but this Battle of Woods deck might be just what I pick up. Let's be honest.
You're gonna segue to Battle Wits and not Devoted Druid. You're like, I really need to beat the Hogak decks. 256 cards, suck
Let
it.
me ask you, how many times in your life do you get to register Arcslogger?
I would like for it to be 0.
I've registered Arcslogger before. I've been down that road.
All right, let me guess what Arcslogger does. For 3 and a blue, target player switches decks with the opponent, and then now they have my Battle of Wits deck, and I beat them with their modern deck. No?
Wrong.
Dang it! Ugh. That'd be a dope card. What does Arcslogger do for those at home?
It's red 3 for a 4/5. You remove, you pay a red to remove the top 10 cards of your library from the game, and it deals 2 damage.
Only the best cards do we register these days. That's a sweet one. For only 5 mana, I can have repeatable shock. Is that correct? No, wait. Does it insta kill them basically in your deck? Wait, does it cost mana? I'm sorry, I missed
It
the
does
first.
cost
Yeah,
1 red mana.
Lame. I just want to get them. Bop, 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 bop.
You also get Terastodon in this
I know
deck,
that one.
so if you haven't registered Terastodon in a while, that's a good one. I don't know, like modern is an interesting place. I do think that Blue Eye Control is fine. I might register something more like Infect, like if I really had to think about it, just because it's really fast. If they don't draw their Dark Blast, they're in pretty big trouble, kind of stuff.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. And like, there's a lot of things you can be doing with Infect, like we just talked about, so you can kind of catch people off guard too. Yeah, I would. I'm playing SCG Pittsburgh in a week and a half, I guess, technically speaking, and it is.
I'm playing Hogak.
I don't know if I'm gonna play Hogak, but I might. I don't know. I'm still too early to tell. But Hogak, Druid, Infect are like 3 of my top front runners right now, and kind of Humans as well. To be honest, that's another deck that I'm interested in playing. I'm kind of off Amulet at the moment. I think things are too fast for the deck, which is a shame. But that's all right.
You think they're too fast for your turn 2 deck?
You're like a turn 3 or 4 deck. Think of that of what you will, but you can turn 2. I'm just never lucky enough to do it consistently. If I could do it every time, I'd play the deck forever, as would most people. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff going on with Modern. Modern feels like, for lack of a better term, like a horse with blinders on right now. Like, you need to be going fast because of Hogak, and you have to go as fast as you can. And
I had a better term, you just didn't use it.
What was your better term? Oh, is it like Jean Girard? Is that the guy's name from Ricky Bobby?
I was going to say that it's the Ricky Bobby of Magic formats, but...
Oh, Jean Girard is the name, by the way. I looked it up. That is...
I believe that you did that, but you're not playing the Jean Girard of formats, you're playing the Ricky Bobby of formats.
No, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like you have to either be Ricky Bobby or Jean. Like, you have to like try and attack them or go super fast. No middle.
I like that. Like, there's probably such a large percentage of listeners that don't understand this.
If they don't understand Ricky Bobby, I don't know why they're listening to the show.
Pause.
They could be watching Ricky Bobby.
Pause it now. Watch Talladega Nights. Come back. Start over.
Yeah.
But eat some crepes while you're watching.
Are those those thin pancakes? Are those the very thin pancakes?
Yeah, I had
Those
some
are
this
pretty
morning. Yeah. No, like I put
Yeah.
some butter on them to just like basically
How
American
about
pancakes.
how about a compromise? You just say I love those thin pancakes.
Nope, break it, Frenchie. All right, so let's not quote Talladega Night to the rest of the podcast. Although side podcast, guys.
I can't wait for this month's Patreon only episode.
Yeah. No, but there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Trey, I'm going to throw it to you about what you'd play in Modern and surprise me and say Hogak.
I would play Hogak until they ban it.
Okay.
Do you think
Because-
Hogak gets banned? There's no way Hogak gets banned.
It's probably Hogak's too cool. I would definitely ban Bridge or Alter before I banned Hogak if I was WotC.
Yeah.
Also, like Hogak's part of the reason it's good is because of Alter. It becomes a draw 8, or I hit them or I mill them for 8, right? So like, it's
Yeah, but I mean,
much worse.
it would still be good in the deck without Alter. I mean, like you can literally just cast it on turn 2.
I mean that is true,
Right.
but you
Without
can beat
Alter.
that. Like Like if you just have a Hogak in play or whatever, and I like path your thing, like take 4, snap path on the next turn, like that's totally beatable. The problem is when I try and path it, and you're like, well, I'll draw 8 cards.
We have an intervention for people.
Yeah.
I want to have an intervention for people who register Endbringer instead of Ugin the Effin' Ineffable.
Whoa, Endbringer's dope. You want to cut all 4 Endbringers?
I don't think most people have been playing 4 Endbringers for a while, especially since Karn the Great Creator came into play.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense when you say it.
I've played 0 Endbringers.
Yeah, I think 0 is probably correct right now.
Hurts my heart. The card's dope. You draw a card every turn.
The card is dope. Also,
Yeah,
that promo version they did was dope too. That art was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do think Eldrazi Tron is another deck that I would consider. You can timestamp that one too, fam. I think the deck is probably the best positioned it's ever been right now, and it's definitely one that I would consider playing.
Yeah, definitely.
You gonna catting them up forever?
Nah, I just play the cat deck because it looks like a lot of fun. I was like playing FNM, and I was like, man, that cat deck looks like a lot of fun. And my friend Ellison Berryhill, patron of the podcast, hi Ellie Berry, he was like, yeah, you should cat people. And our friend Blake was over there. I'm like, Blake, do you have cat on you? And he's like, right here, not playing tomorrow. I'm like, can I borrow the cat deck? And then I played and I lost in essentially the finals, but the semifinals of the IQ.
Do all the Karn decks play Spine of Isha?
Not all of them, I don't think, but a lot of them do.
That's hot.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta have your Vindicate. Only 7 mana. You too can play that deck. That you're allowed.
If they ban Hogak, I'll probably play Borio's Vengeance because I like to abuse the graveyard.
I would be down to play Borio's Vengeance, TBH. That deck's pretty dope.
That deck is very dope.
Yeah.
This list the list in 13th place played 0 Dark Blasts and 19 lands and played a Shriekhorn instead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The flex spots are not figured out. And the core of the deck is very powerful, that a lot of it doesn't matter.
Yeah, Shriekhorn, double Ancestral Recall in that deck. Pretty absurd. Where can they find you, Spencer?
They can find me at Spencer13H. They can find the podcast at CCMTG. They can find Mason at Mason E. Clark, and they can find Trey at Trey MC, soon to be MC Trey. You can listen to the rest of the podcast network over on constructivecriticism.com. Check them out. There's tons of awesome things going on. We got new podcasts coming out. Common Knowledge just did a deep dive on a deck that they played all month long. So they do this new monthly deck where they actually go and learn a deck for the month, and then they do a podcast on that deck after they both played it a bunch. It's a really cool idea, and you should just check that out. And then there's tons of other stuff. One of the podcasts had to end. That Even Odds thing had to end. The hosts were super done with the show. They just couldn't handle it anymore. But there's still some good stuff on there.
Yeah, I heard they went to a different show. No respect or love for the game.
I'm not gonna lie, guys. I have not checked hashtag Would That Be Good today.
I just did. It looks like we have no hashtag Would That Be Goods since the last episode, unfortunately.
I blame Andrew Elliott.
I do too, because I feel like if Andrew Elliott, if I had done bad with Cat, he would have said what he said, and he would have tweeted at the show saying, Mason's so smart for playing Cat, hashtag Would That Be Good. But instead, I just unfortunately lost the IQ winning in there. And so, Andrew, we don't get to talk about how you were right, and that deck's completely unplayable. It's a shame. I would love to talk on the podcast about that, but we don't get that opportunity. And there's no way for us to never not talk about that on the podcast. So I'm sorry, Andrew.
Well, thank you, everybody, so much for listening this week, and we'll talk to everybody next week.